So I'm very excited to introduce the next two speakers. So there are two speakers who will regale us for the next session for about an hour, maybe just a little bit under an hour. The two folks I am very pleased to introduce are Artem and Keith. I will talk first about Artem and then briefly about Keith and then call them both to the stage. So Artem started his career 30 years ago by building software for logistics companies. Since then, he's worked at companies like Salesforce and Microsoft, pretty good company there, where he learned about best practices and top technologies in QA. He is now bringing those technologies to other companies to allow them to catch up with the software giants, as well as to become more efficient in testing. He is a co-founder of testRigor AI, which empowers companies like Netflix, Cisco, BurgerKing, and others, and many more to build test automation faster and spend significantly less time on test maintenance. So that is Artem Golubev, who is a co-founder of testRigor AI. And I would now like to say a few words about a man who has a stunning background professional. I actually don't have enough words to capture all of it, so I just jotted down a few quick notes. But I'm pretty sure you can find a lot more about him on Google. So Keith Poe has a background in QA also. He is currently the VP of Engineering at IDT, which is, as you know, is a large telecom player in New Jersey. He is also a former NFL player. He played for the Cowboys and the Bucks, and that's pretty cool. He's originally from Houston. So way more about him online. I just had a very short conversation with him, so I encourage you to learn more by talking with him afterwards or taking a look online. So without further ado, I'd love to call Keith and Artem to the stage, please, whenever y'all are ready.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll start quickly about the, we will go deep dive into specifically how would you scale QA, right? Of course you can do QA, right? But if you hit the limits with the budget that you have, then it's not scalable. So how do you scale QA and reach your goals under the budget that you have? And we will be, I guess, talking about this. And on that, first, I would love to give a word to our customers, Keith, a VP of engineering at IDT, but his background was in QA. His previous titles were director of engineering. Oh, sorry, director of QA, my apologies. And no further ado, loud applause to Keith.
All right. All right, thank you guys for having me here in Seattle. I actually also played up the street in Vancouver in the Canadian Football League as well. So I've been here several times. You guys look pretty young. You may, I also played in the Kingdome. Some of you guys may not know what that is, but that's the old stadium that the Seahawks used to play in. But as Artem mentioned, I'm the VP of Engineering at IDT. I was hired there not because I'm some huge technical mind, but because I fix broken things, right? And they had an engineering team that he said they never deliver on time, and when they do deliver, we lose hundreds of customers, right? Every time they have a release, we lose customers. And my job was to come in there and fix that, right? So I get there, and my boss says, you got a week to give me your plan, right? And I'm like, wow, a week. And this place was really bad. I don't know if you guys ever read the book, The Phoenix Project, but it was just like that. I mean, my third day there, I looked, and we're on the engineers are all on the second floor. I'm like, who's that guy? Oh, that's the COO. I said, what's he doing down here? I said, we had a release today and things are going bad. I said, well, who's that guy? They said, that's the CEO. I was like, same thing? They're like, yeah. And then I swear, the VP of sales came into my office and said, I thought you were here to fix this kind of crap. And I'm like, that's my third day. So it was really that bad. So after a week, I noticed a few things. One of the things was there was like a 13-to-1 dev to QA ratio, right? So you can't win with that one. Second thing I noticed was they only had 100 automated test cases. They didn't have a test case management system. 50% of the defects were found by customers, right? Right. So we're basically letting our customers pay us to be their testers, or to be our testers, I guess. So it was a pretty easy plan. Fix the quality, which is my strength, right? Fix the quality, and then we'll stop losing customers and we'll start making a little more revenue, right? So my plan was, I have a huge budget. I'm gonna, instead of hiring a bunch of more developers, I'll fix the ratio, but mainly I'll hire a bunch of automation engineers, right? So I hired a bunch of automation engineers, about 80,000 pop, I think about 30 of them to fix that issue. And we did pretty good. You know, the first year, they asked me to speak at the company kickoff in front of all the employees and board of directors. And I got up there and I was proud, right? We did a really good job. We automated 1/3 of these test cases. So I get up there and I explain, hey, we used to have 100 automated test cases, now we got 1,000. It was crickets, nobody understood what was going on. So I had to explain to them what automation was. Still no applause. So I was like, well, have you noticed that on release date, the executives are no longer running down to the engineering floor? People started nodding their head and shaking their head, yeah. And they're less cranky. And I asked, are there less customer calls coming in now? People are nodding their heads, and you know, and I asked the accounting people, are less customers jumping off the ship than before? And everybody's shaking their head. And I said, that's what automation is doing for us. We're able to run more tests, and therefore less bugs are being found. And I said, as closer we get to 90% or 100%, we're going to even get less customers leaving and less customer calls. So that's when I got the huge applause, and you know, I'm like a rock star. After the after party, everybody's patting me on my back. I thought I'd noticed a change in things, and you know, a couple of weeks later, the CEO called me into his office and was like, you know, I must admit, I didn't really think you could do it. I didn't think your plan was going to work. But we noticed that the churn of the customers churning out has changed significantly, and so the board voted to give you a bunch of stock. So I was like, okay, cool. I looked at it, the stock was worth $5. The last 10 years, the highest it was like $6.50. So I figured I'd get some gas money out of the deal, right? So the next year, you know, we're churning along. Next year, I got to speak in the same meeting, and I got to tell them, we only got 35% now, right? So we went from 33% to 35%. You know, the reason for that is because the guys, you know, I had explained the reason why is we're adding more test cases, and the guys are fixing the broken test cases. So, you know, I'm over everything, so I said I got to get the developers to stop making trivial GUI changes, right? If they stop making trivial changes, then we won't break all these tests. So I did that, and the developer stopped making trivial changes, and the third year comes, 37%, right? So I'm in front of everybody, and I'm nervous. You know, I was supposed to have a 4-year plan to get this done. Here we are in year 3, and you know, the numbers are not showing that. I'm thinking I'm going to lose my job. My boss is like, well, what are you going to do? And actually, I saw the CEO walking down the hall. He said, I knew that plan wasn't going to work. Shouldn't have gave you all that stock. So, so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm nervous. I think I'm going to lose my job, and I didn't know. I had no idea what to do. All I knew was automation, and so then my CTO said, why don't you look into AI? I had, you know, this is like 2018, I guess. I had no idea what AI was doing. So I did my research, and I found a couple of products that I said I'll give them a try and see what happens. And testRigor happened to be one of those. And what happened was we put them in our environment, and I said in 3 months we'll make our decision. And it was very easy to make those decisions. What decision I went with. The reason why I went with testRigor was because we had 2 interns that did not know how to code or script. They went to like a 6-week program to teach you how to be a manual tester. That we're paying them $400 a month. They're out of Eastern Europe. And I said, well, give them testRigor and give them the same test cases we're giving automation engineers. And I knew the automation engineers that are making $80,000 or $65,000 a year, they could do about 5.5 tests a week. We had the numbers on that. And what happened was those 2 unskilled interns were doing 15 tests a week that weren't breaking, right? So you know, I said, hey, no more automation with Selenium, no GUI automation with Selenium. from now on, we're going to use testRigor. And I guess I said it seemed like overnight, but I guess it was about 18 months. We were at 91%. So, and we went from doing monthly releases to now we're releasing 7 or 8 times a day. And that's because of testRigor. So I went from being a star to a dud to now I'm a star again. So, and that's all due to testRigor. So if you have any questions on how it worked and how we're using it, feel free to catch me in between sessions or afterwards, and I'll let you know. I'll hand it over to Artem.
Thank you. So I feel like a pretty fascinating story. So basically, the point is the following, right? So as a director of QA or QA manager, you're basically CEO of your team, right? You have a certain budget, right? Therefore, you can hire certain engineers. And at some point, with technologies like Selenium and Playwright, you will just literally cap out of what you can deliver. And, hopefully, like you can hope that you can convince your manager that it's not your fault, but you're definitely not going to get that promotion you're hoping for if you, like if you stop showing up results and your percentage of automation is not growing anymore, right? So you don't want to be in that situation. So as I was mentioning in the morning today, the problem is how it is working, right? The details of implementation. You can't, if you rely on details of implementation, then that's it. You're in constant catch up with what engineers are doing, and they're constantly breaking the tests. And the only way you can catch up is, like fix those tests, and it takes a huge amount of time, and therefore you don't have any more time to build tests. So that is a huge problem. So anyway, so here I want to talk a little bit more and spend a little bit more time on talking about the ways how you can get back on track and how you can scale your stuff, and what are the steps there in order for you to be able to achieve the levels of automation you want to get, and why you can't get off with manual testing. So on average, there is the statistics, I guess I already mentioned, around 30% of end-to-end test cases today in the world are executed manually, so you're not alone if you're in this boat. And that means that people on average have both QA automation people and manual testers on the team. So what we have seen have success is then you can enable your manual testers to participate in building automation. And I guess like Keith didn't mention it this time, but when he was measuring like the speed of those people are still were doing manual testing. So we were building more end-to-end tests while performing their duties on manual testing at the same time. And this could be like the first step, right? If you have a system or a tool that allows you to, jumpstart and quickly jump into your automation numbers that you need, then why wouldn't you use that? So this is one thing. So second, well, of course, there is the best practice of CI/CD. You do want to run as much test as you technically can in your CI/CD. That's pretty important. Now, why manual testing does not scale? So let's talk about the scalability. Here we don't talk about like, hey, can you do test? Yes, you can. The question is, can you scale it to a level where you want it to be? And this is under the budget that you have, and this is what we're talking about here. The problem with manual testing is that you just cannot, on average, from what we have seen, retest everything. You just run out of time. So because imagine if you're testing, a retesting of a full regression cycle takes a month, right? And you budgeted, let's say, 1.5 months for it. So you even gave it like a couple more weeks additionally. And then at the end of the month, your QA found a bug. And then engineers need to fix it. Let's say we do it immediately. But you still, in theory, once we fix the bug, you would need to rerun the whole regression again. So that is, in theory, 1 more month. But you don't have 1 more month. You only have 2 weeks left, right? So what do you do then? People time box this thing and like just retest whatever was fixed, maybe a couple more things, and that's it. So that means that you cannot retest everything. And mind you, like that's just one bug. Usually you would find multiple issues when you have long cycles like this. So basically, the problem with manual testing is that you can't test, you can't afford to test everything you need, and therefore, even though you might have a lot of people, you're still leaking bugs to production. And bugs in production is a big deal for CEOs because they affect churn. This is gigantic, #1 probably thing how investors assess the companies on the amount of churn they have. So it is extremely important. Okay then, so when like everybody is convinced we want to do automation, but then you have budget for, let's say, 5 key automation engineers. And then at some point, mind you, it might take quite some time because we have seen that on average, key automation engineers, and that you should calculate literally, like you can get like, hey, we have like 5 key automation engineers. We have been building automation for 3 years, and we have built like 1,500 test cases. Therefore, 1,500 divided by 5 times 3, like we build 100 tests per person per year on average. So it's very easy to calculate, right? So what's the speed, what's your average speed of building test cases? And what we have seen across the board on average is it is around 120 end-to-end automated test cases per person per year with the playwright. If we're talking about technologies like Salesforce or ServiceNow, you'll be lucky if you'll get 30. So because their UI is insanely complex, very hard to deal with. You just can't easily automate anything like that, and they keep changing it all the time. So there are 2 issues. There is very, very slow speed, but at some point you just cap out on test maintenance because your speed slowly starts to decrement until the point that around 300, 350, your QA automation engineers just cap out on test maintenance. You might not see that because if you didn't reach your breaking point yet with the number of tests you have, because the speed of building tests is so slow, you might not see that breaking point where you don't produce any number of meaningful tests at all. But that's because you didn't reach that well, and that part. And there is always a hack, right? Let's say in case of Keith, so his engineering team, QA engineering team got stuck at around teams, I should say, got stuck at around like 35% of QA automation. So there is another solution in there, right? of course, you can go for cheap testRigor and like enable manual testers to do the stuff since you already hire those people. Or you can triple the number of QA automation engineers. So like if you have 30, you hire 60 more and done. I guess like those will be new, net new people, right? So like each of them will stack, but will stack closer to 100%. The problem is that it is not a scalable solution and nobody has infinite budget. I have not seen it in my life. So usually when the CTOs planning the budget, they allocate in modern days around 10% on average of engineering budget to QA. That is like shockingly small percentage. It used to be larger. So it used to be around 20%, probably around 10 years ago. But in these days, it's around 10%. So you're not going to get more people. So like if you get stuck at 35%, nobody give you any more money to expand your team. So you want to be able to solve this this challenge with the resources that you currently have. And the one of the solutions for at least end-to-end automation with the UI is enabling those manual testers to help out, to build automation, to quickly reach your goals. As a next step, you can convert in testRigor as converter from Selenium, Playwright, and Cypress into testRigor, and then after that, you'll start immediately saving a lot of time on test maintenance. And the so this way, you will be able to allocate resources and basically put those QA automation engineers to build, let's say, more API tests. Right, in these API tests, the API tests are contracts with the fixed specification. Those are not supposed to change. So the problem with the UI is the UI changes, then when engineers do those small UI updates, when we introduce additional divs and stuff like that, with API is not the case. So, and your engineers are best, the QA automation engineers currently is best bet to basically automate the API as much as possible, instead of wasting time on UI automation, where we constantly need to catch up. Anyway, so without further ado, I'll show you the, I guess, the small example. So we'll go to newegg.com. And okay, I should have reloaded. So basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a test suite and a test case on newegg.com, and then I will rerun this exact test case on Amazon. And that's basically the point of testability. If your tests are not as stable as this, you're wasting your time on updating to minute engineering changes with your current UI end-to-end framework. So all right. Okay, we got internet, great. So we'll call test with e-commerce, and then as a description, I will just say e-commerce. And I'll skip this thing for now. All right, so Amazon, so finding Kindle. And what we are going to do is enter Kindle into search. Type enter. And check that. Oh. Page contains Kindle. Anyway, so this is one. While it's working, I want to point out a couple other interesting things. So if you want to work with AI, and basically the way testRigor specifically works is it's two-level. So there is a subset of plain English language that is parsed and executed, and testRigor is human tester emulator, and this is what it is doing right now. And on top of it, there are LLMs that understand any language whatsoever, and they basically tell you to tell us in our own subset of English what needs to be done. The key in working with AI is ability to correct, right? In our case, if the steps that AI came up with are not correct, you can easily correct that in the subset that we support out of the box. Anyway, as you can see, it entered Kindle and pressed enter, and on the next page, highlighted the Kindle, and we're all good. Now we go ahead and change it to Amazon. Amazon.com. Run it. All right. And see how this exactly same test works on Amazon. And the key here is there are no reliance on any details of implementations, whereas there is no any kind of locators anywhere whatsoever. So the system interprets it the following way. So enter Kindle into search is basically means that you need to find something where you can enter something that has is a placeholder or text that looks like that label, in this case search, near it, that looks to humans like a label, and then use that input to enter. So then you move the mouse, click type, and then, well, type enter is self-explanatory, and then basically validate that page contains certain text. It's like, it doesn't matter where it is. It just finds it's on the page. If it is on the page, it will highlight it. If it's not, it will fail. Very straightforward. So the point is that no shape or form I relied on DOM, on names of inputs or anything like this whatsoever. Here, everything is how you would write it in a manual test case, and is executed exactly the same way as a manual tester would do it. And this is where it's coming. So another interesting point I would like to point out is the, let's say, adding to cart. Let's do something more. And I'll describe in a second why I'm doing it. Give me 1 second. So basically, this is an example of a manual test case you might have, and that's the example where you will remember, like I was showing, that, hey, like if the system can read and understand English, then you should be able to import your manual test cases directly from your test case management systems. Yeah, so if you have your manual tests, then you will be able to then you'll be able to basically literally import those test cases, and AI will attempt to basically, execute whatever is written there. Of course, there is a really high chance it won't be able to do that, because you would need to probably like clean up those cases, and when AI will hallucinate, and then you would need to clean up the steps and so on and so forth. But that could make, I don't know, maybe 30% out of the box of the steps in there already. And then those manual testers who used to execute those test cases manually will be able to correct those. Well, in this particular case, find and select the Kindle. It did it through Kindle Store. Anyway, so like another thing that it does is, as soon as you're going further and further, you're developing those functions. So those are the functions, we call them rules. Like those are the phrases that have certain particular steps. Of course, you can pass parameters, you can have them nested, and so on and so forth. And this library of those functions is your treasure trove. So this is how you will make things work. Because then, yes, you probably should import only a couple of test cases and then manually fix them, creating those functions. But starting from third, fourth, and so on times, or when you bulk import of the rest of your test cases, the system knows that you have those functions, and AI will be able to use your existing functions like when it builds tests. That's kind of the point of it. So it's an accumulating process. The more you have in there, the better it is. And you can probably see on the background where like it went a little bit on a tangent, but that's besides the point. You can go ahead and fix it. I just command click into this particular rule. As you can see, by default it's AI based, but here this is what it does. In this particular case, this is not how I want to do it. So you can correct some of them to do whatever we're supposed to, and that should just fix it. Now, remember I was saying I was talking about this process, right? So how do you make the test cases for the specifications that your product managers give you a little bit faster? Of course, you can build it out manually, but that's time consuming. You can speed up this process a little bit by basically using AI to generate the test for you. For example, let's emulate a specification that product manager gave you, right? This is an example of the specification you might get from your product manager. You probably would also get wireframes from it which you can upload. You can say, hey, I need 3 test cases. The system will generate you test cases, as you can see here. And then you can say, click add and run. And it will build those test cases for you, and it will attempt to use the library of functions that you already have available and you worked so hard to build. So basically the framework, AI will use your framework that your more senior engineers built out partially manually and fine-tuned to be perfect. There is no guarantees though, so sometimes it will hallucinate and will not use the functions where it should, but it is very easy to correct that behavior. Moreover, so the way to correct it is basically literally do edit in here and correct the steps. And once you have those functions right here, we didn't have it, but you can say things like add when you start typing. As you can see, there is autocomplete, that makes it even easier for manual testers to quickly build out the automation, or your key automation engineers. So anyway, getting back to the points. So there is a way to get you to a better process, and then like switch to this BDD-like process that I shown previously. I'll get back to that in a second. And the steps could be the following. So first of all, you enable your manual testers to build automation. Then your QA automation engineers build out some basic functions, some kind of framework in where we automate a couple of tests using those functions. So you have basically phrases that tells the system how to navigate around your application in your own terms that your team are using right now in your own manual tests, or product managers use, whatever it is, like using your terminology. So then once you have that library, it would be a good time then to import your manual test cases into your system, and then basically clean them up. This way you'll jump from, I don't know, 30% to 100% automation faster than Keith was able to do at the time where we didn't have this generative AI system available. And then you can basically switch to the more efficient way of building software and more efficient SDLC in general, right? So you will, so first of all, you will be able to come to engineers to say, hey, like, do you want 35% of your engineering time get back to you? We know the way. Like there's a really good chance they'll say yes, and then at least you'll be able to try. If you have your automation running in CI/CD, right, and engineers, then they commit certain changes, they go through full regression at some point, then this process is something that will allow you to keep automation at 100%. Now think about it. What would that mean if QA, that you gave engineering team 35% more bandwidth? That would mean that they're not gonna, sit and do nothing out of it. They're going to churn out 35% more features. If they're going to build 35% more features, you need to test 35% more features, right? So your capacity should scale accordingly. But if you will be building the tests before engineers write the code, then you will never miss or have a dip in your coverage. You'll be able to constantly be at 100%, and basically, like that's engineering who will be catching up. Maybe we won't be able to make 35%, maybe we'll just do like 25 this time, but from your perspective, it does matter. You always be at 100. Moreover, even product managers will tell you thank you, because number one challenge for people who are in product management are, hey, how do I write specifications in such a way that engineers won't understand what the heck I was trying to say? Like, that's a big challenge. And if you're doing the QA automation before engineers write the code, you're actually helping product managers to clear those specifications and make them more understandable and better. This is what we do right now in testRigor, and this is the process. So basically, then somebody would have to look at it and review the specifications. And de facto, it is right now engineers. So it is either engineers or QA, because there is no such thing as product management specification review, like pull request review or something like that. They just write one time and that's it. Off it goes. So de facto, either engineers or QA engineers will be reviewing and giving feedback to product managers on the specs. And if you will be able to clear up, then product managers also will be happy. And that's basically the way how it's going to go forward. So this is the way how AI will help you to, and generative AI in particular, will help you to move faster and achieve your goals, and you can't not do that. Because in some time from now, there will be no such thing as not using AI. So you either catch up and basically start using it and getting value right now, like you basically will, will be playing catch up with everyone else. People will find out, because if everyone else is using AI and everyone else is like 3 times more efficient and you're not, then like people will be not happy with your performance, right? So the point is, like, this is the change that is happening right now, like regardless what people want or do not want, and this is the way to explain it to QA automation engineers, right? So as a QA automation engineer, like you talk to your team and say, hey, I'm a QA automation engineer, I want to code. I don't want plain English and stuff like that. Where's my skills, right? Where's Java? I want to write Java. But the reality is that even that might subside at some point, right? Then code generation tool will catch up, which is we're not there yet. The reality is that efficiency is what's most important. There will be no Java and Selenium 5 years from now. It will be all AI based. And if your team does not understand that, like again, so that might be a little bit not only conflict of interest with the company, but most importantly, even conflict of interest with themselves, because they need to understand, like, hey, the world is changing, and you can't use the tools that like were popular yesterday, in 2004, right now, and expect it's going to be always like this. So this is the peak, and now it's all going down. So AI will quickly will replace that, and you need to learn the new tools, and you need to learn the new skills. And basically, what's happening is prompt engineering, and tell them, hey, like, yes, it's plain English, but it is working with AI, and it is prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is replacing regular engineering. So basically, to be effective today at your job, you need to learn how to do prompt engineering effectively. And that's basically exactly what it is. Prompt engineering. All right, so on that, I'm open to questions. Please.
Based on all these things you described, as for me, it looks like that testRigor is more applicable for integration testing and for end-to-end testing. But what about functional testing and test environment? It's not so stable, and it's not so easy to create end-to-end scenario, because different teams could work on the different components, and before they could integrate, they still continue to write some testing on test environment. And it looks like that,
Yeah, the question is how we can use this tool during functional testing and component testing when our end-to-end scenario is not ready.
Well, like using that process that I outlined. So basically, like there are a couple of parts in here. So the question is basically our test environment is not stable. Everybody is doing whatever we want in our test environment, and how do we deal with that? Moreover, how do we build tests like this? So basically, there are two parts answer to that. So number one is you want to give engineers tests before we write the code, and with the requirement where, hey, like, see, we built this test on your test environment, it breaks, and it should be green. It's red, but it should switch from red to green. If you do it in advance, then we will write the code, but we will fix it on your test environment, and that would be the requirement, right? This is you giving them the precondition to even accept anything whatsoever. So this way might stabilize your test environment. This is one. And then second is, just a standard thing that everybody does, like you just improving the processes. And this is what Anna and Tatiana I'm sure can help you with, on how to deal with environments more effectively, right? So how to run more tests in CI/CD on every commit, on dynamically allocated dev environments, and all things like that. So you basically work with the overall process, maybe roll out another environment, which we'll call pre-prod. And yes, like test environment is unstable, but pre-prod will always be used only for automation. We will not be like people like interfering with it manually and breaking all things all the time. Like those are improvements to the process overall, which are in your hands right now, and they have nothing to do with any tool whatsoever. So that's probably something you would want to do regardless. Okay, more questions?
I have one more question. Another question is more related to results which we receive from testing. And as I understand, for example, we can cover some part of testing by testRigor, and I have read that, I'm not sure, but maybe it's correct that performance testing could not be covered by this tool. And I have read that you can integrate, import testing results from your tool into Zephyr or testRail, and how to differentiate which test results were imported from your tool. I mean, for analysis, test results, understanding, okay, we used this test type and it works this way, and analyze all these data and make gather some metrics and analyze the progress of our testing. Yeah, thank you.
All right, great. So first is testRigor is the end-to-end testing tool for web, mobile, and native desktop mostly. Of course, it can work with APIs, emails, and such. And yes, you can run the test in kind of a load testing mode, but you usually want to run it in conjunction with a load testing tool separately, because testRigor doesn't break it down to APIs and actually run actual VMs with actual browsers, with human emulators, agents that will interact with the real browser. So it will help you to see the effect of your load testing on the UI, because you'll get averages and distributions or for the UI actions and you can assess that, and you can set up parameters when you should fail, at what point you should fail the test suite, and so on and so forth. But it's by no way a replacement to a load testing tool. It's more like an addition to. The second part is, yes, testRigor does integrate with testRail, Zephyr, X-Ray, Azure DevOps, and so on and so forth. And you can import test cases, but you can also report the results back. That is absolutely correct. And the way to differentiate those lies in the tools themselves. So in testRail, you can basically set those test cases, mark those test cases as automated, or you can basically have some kind of like if your tool doesn't allow you to add some additional flags or labels to test cases, and again, there is no good solution, right? You have to figure it out what works best in your case. You can literally add a postfix to the name of the test case, like say, I don't know, space testRigor or something like that. And all test cases with ended testRigor would be, you'll see that. But of course, you'll get better results if the tool supports labeling or custom fields, like X-Ray, for example, does support custom fields, where you can set the different, let's say, type of automation kind of a thing, and then you select different types of automation in the test case. So it depends, the answer is.
Okay,
Right.
I have a couple of questions. So it sounds like you were saying that we can do API tests as well as UI tests?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can write API tests. testRigor does not currently give you any advantage against any other API testing tool specifically only for API tests. They was mostly added to be a part of end-to-end tests, for example, for setting up the environment or clearing at the end and so on and so forth. But you can do even pure API tests in testRigor if you want to keep everything in one tool.
Okay, and the other question was UI tests often are very slow. So are you able to run a bunch in parallel? How do you have hundreds of tests that don't take days to run each time you want to release?
Oh yes, of course. So this is how testRigor done it from the very beginning. You just tell the number of AI agents you want to use, and it will automatically run your tests on those like parallelizations. Basically, we call them parallelizations. You don't need to do anything. You just need to make sure that your test cases are actually parallelizable and can actually run in parallel. So you have to be careful how you write your test cases. Make sure that you generate unique data where it needs to be, where you need to generate it to make sure it's always unique. But other than that, you should be good to go. It's just like a setting, and this is how our pricing works in general. We just charge for parallelizations. The framework itself is free.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So right now, testRigor is here. I know there is another tool here, and there is Copilot here, right? Where is the person?
Where is what?
Where is the human being?
And every stage.
Specs are being developed by AI, automation being developed from the specs, code being developed from the automation and specs. Where are the people?
Like on every single step.
Okay.
So product managers are writing the specs. The testRigor can help to generate test cases, but you can't trust AI. Please, please, please don't just like, you can, find it the easy way or hard way. The easy way is just listen to what I'm saying, or you can try it on your own, and you'll see that this doesn't work, right? And you have seen the examples when I ran here, right? Sometimes it does the right thing, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to basically correct what AI have done in cases where you need to correct it. So this is a human job. And even then, AI will be able to generate the code is not possible right now. Still, it will require a gigantic amount of oversight by engineers in order to make sure that this code does what it's supposed to do and is not just pure hallucination. So the hallucination is unlikely to go away anytime soon, far away. So it always has to be a human oversight to correct the results of AI. You cannot trust AI. Please, please, I'm sure you have seen it many times in ChatGPT. You cannot just blindly trust AI. You need to review what it is doing.
Thank you. We need to hear it. We will hear more.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.